this. All right. Good afternoon, my Facebook friends. How are you today? I'm Jen Phillips, and I'm here live with you with my new friend, Brandon. And she is going to share with us some of the things that she's learned as a mom and how it helps her to integrate with her daughter in her relationship there, but also how she now helps families with their relationships with their children. So Brandon, welcome. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi. So I'm a solo mama to a wild-hearted, free-spirited little 5-year-old. I like to call her my monster. But and when I say solo mama, I'm 100% spiritually, financially, emotionally, all of the above. So we have a very deep connection. Our home base currently is in Portland, Oregon.
Nice.
And I'm a as you mentioned, I'm a certified peaceful parenting coach. So I just help families and parents or caregivers who are feeling like there's just got to be a better way to parent than how we were parented, and to help build more connection and stronger, deeper relationships with your children without having to use punishment or a lot of discipline.
Okay, let me ask you something. So you mentioned that you're a mom of, solo mama taking care of your little girl. What was it that made you decide that this was a direction that you wanted to go to? You've been doing this for, again, how long?
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half. And so a year and a half ago, longer probably, because you probably thought about it before you made the jump, right?
Correct. It takes a long time to get the certification and everything.
Oh, really? Okay. So when you made that decision and you decided you're going to move in this direction, what was it that made you decide I want something different for my daughter and I want something different for my relationship with her?
Yeah. So what happened is I have always been on this spiritual I'm really huge in spiritual growth, transformational growth. I started that journey probably 11 going on 12 years ago. And it's been a beautiful, messy journey. But when I got pregnant, I knew that I wanted to do things differently than how I was raised. I don't know if a lot of you have felt like, like how you were reared was a little bit more of the be seen and not heard. You're here to be seen and not heard. You are guilty until proven innocent. A lot of yelling, a lot of discipline, consequences, all that. And I just knew that there had to be a better way to connect. And so I started reading some books on conscious and peaceful parenting, but it was great because she was in womb and everything was great. Well, then after the birth at around 2.5, she started to have some big emotions, and I didn't have the proper tools. So I was like, oh my God, what the hell am I going to do? I saw myself starting to yell, starting to use the old traditional paradigm of parenting of, I'm the parent, you're the child. That's how it is. And I was just a yeller. I came from a family of yellers, and then I started to pass that on. I knew I didn't want that anymore. So I talked to a friend, and she said, oh my gosh, I want to introduce you to my conscious parenting coach. And so I got a coach to help me better equipped myself, because parenting is truly an inside job. It really has nothing to do with our children. We like to think it's a lot to do with our children, but it's not. It's really about us. And what we're bringing and outside stressors and everything else. So I got my coach, went through a program, still use her occasionally when I need, some maintenance, if you will. I found out that these tools were so practical, and they changed my relationship with my daughter so drastically that I was like, gosh, I want to bring these to other parents. Like, parents should have access to this. So I got certified. I'm certified with the Jai Institute. And I've also done some of Dr. Shefali's certifications and work as well for peaceful and conscious parenting. And so boom, here I have my coaching business and clients that I absolutely adore and love to work with. But I think I grow more out of the relationship. I tell my clients, I think I get more out of this than potentially you, because it keeps me having to live in that truth and being in integrity with who I am going to say I want to be and how I want to show up with my daughter. And how I do that with my clients is we do a lot through connection, grace, and play. And that's kind of where we kind of start from.
That's very cool. I've got all these questions now. So as I'm listening to you speak, I'm like, okay, so I have no idea what conscious peaceful parenting is, by the way. So we're going to learn about that. We may not learn about it all today, folks. We might learn some more and bring Brandon back. But I had a question like, is this somewhat like, have you heard of Love and Logic?
Yes, I have. It's kind of similar to that. Yes. And it's very similar. It's just another way that people can get certified and learn. But I feel like this really goes deeper. Love and Logic kind of hits the surface level of the connection and really building connection. So more with peaceful parenting, it's really learning how to parent your child or your children without discipline and punishments.
Okay.
And so there's consequences, and natural consequences happen, but it's the main focus is, I like to say, it's connection. You want to create connection before correction, or connection before cooperation.
Okay. So I'm going to try and understand this, because like I said, I've heard of this. I'm like, well, it sounds great, but what does it mean? Because I was raised that discipline isn't necessarily a bad thing. And so discipline is no different than a sheep herder and his staff, kind of using the staff to say, no, we're going this way. You're not going to fall off the cliff, And so like, it's punishment. I know what punishment is. Punishment is something that, meant to hurt. But discipline, I've always seen it as more to guide. What is it that you see discipline as?
It's the same thing. It's being that spiritual guide for your child. So it's knowing that your child and accepting that your child is already a whole and sovereign being, and allowing them to be that person without us bringing in our past or anything else, or any triggers that might be out there or stressors that might be out there, learning how to manage those, because truly it's within us. Our children, you'll hear parents a lot of times say, oh, my child is, they're pushing my buttons. Or my child, just knows how to push my buttons. Your child really doesn't know how to push your buttons. It's a matter of us not knowing how to handle our triggers or our stressors throughout the day that just compound and make us more flustered or less connected with our child than we want to be. So the little things will just eat at us that our children tend to do. So it is like that sheep herder kind of mentality. We are the spiritual guide of our children. They're already whole sovereign beings. We're not here to control them. We are here to guide them to be the versions of themselves that they hope to be. And it's done through a lot of connection, mindfulness, peacefulness.
And I heard you mention authenticity, so that I can be my authentic self, but I allow my child to be their authentic self as well.
Yes.
Okay. That's very cool. Okay.
Which is hard to do.
Which is very hard to do.
For a control freak like myself.
Fair enough. Well, and in today's society, we are told that, whether we're told it or not, it's definitely this cloud. It's this feeling like we should that, as a mom, as a mother, as a parent, as a caregiver, as a provider, as what all these different hats that we wear. And it's like, we should do this, should. And one of the things that I've learned in this past year is that I have allowed other people to should on me, and I'm not going to should on me either anymore. It's like, but authentically, what is it that I want? What is it that I want to do? And if I want to connect with my kids, can you give us a tip? What would be like one tip that you could give parents today? We'll bring you back to talk about how to attack their triggers and how do they do that. And we're of course going to let them connect with you. But what's a tip you could give to parents today that are like, I'm on the verge, just like our little thing says, I'm going to lose it. What do I do? What would be your number one tip to parents today that we've got distance learning happening for families, homeschooling that they never anticipated they'd be doing for families?
I don't even call it homeschooling. It's just quarantine or shutdown schooling.
It is. It's, and it's, I started a company to try to help families with that, but you're helping families with that in another way. And like, okay, well, how do we help these families that are feeling so stuck and out of control? What is a recommendation that you give your clients in times like now?
Okay, so I think the best thing to say is when your child is, if you're talking about the quarantine schooling or the online schooling that's taking place right now, and your child is just having a mental breakdown, they're not doing their work, whether it's a elementary student or your teenager, I'm of the mentality, let it go. Just let it go, because nothing is normal right now for a lot of us or for any of us. And the stress that is being put on our children and on us to be those parents that are working from home or working, it's ridiculous. So allow yourself and your child some grace. Allow yourself the same grace that you would allow your friend, sister, or brother, in that manner. But I would just let it go. If they are having trouble with grades or doing something, let it go for the time. Don't push it, because you want them to still love the learning that they do, or still love what they're doing. Or even if they don't love it, you don't want them to hate it so much that they don't even want to come back to it. But also, it's not worth the struggle and the disconnect in your family and the strife and the angst and all of that for this.
Fair enough.
We're all collectively going through this as a human race. But also, I want to say, when your child is having a big emotion, and whether it's no matter the age of your child, there is some sort of unmet need that is happening within your child. So you want to be able to look and see what those are. Are they hungry? Are they tired? If they're not, okay, now are they needing autonomy, acceptance, love, connection? What are they needing that they're not getting? Because that's usually what happens with big emotions, is there's some unmet need that's happening. Same within us as adults. When we have big emotions, there's an unmet need that's happening within us. So those would be the things that I would say.
Fair enough. I have one last question before we go and we get your information, how people can get in touch with you.
Yeah.
What would you say would be the greatest, whether it was you and your daughter or with one of your clients, what's a success that you can share with us when you saw a family make a transition, or again with you and your daughter, when you made this shift into using these tools? What would be your greatest, what would be one of your success stories to share with our families? Like, well, you know what, our family's just fine and they do that, but whatever. Like, what would be the reason why someone would explore what you're sharing with us today?
The one, because you feel that there's got to just be a better way. Like, you're just kind of like at your wit's end, and like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't want the battle. I don't want this disconnect. So that would be one reason why you would
give a family, like, you're like, this family was, without sharing, of course, without giving any,
right,
private information, but who would give us a story of a family?
Yeah, so I have many, but the first one that came to mind is one of my my first clients. It was a mama, and she and her husband have 4 children. And they have from 10 to almost 18, and they just were having a really hard time with their eldest daughter. And we learn a lot in what I do. We learn a lot about how to have empowered conversations, nonviolent communication, how to set boundaries. And so I taught this mama how to have these conversations to where her child or her teenage daughters and her 2 sons feel heard and actually have true connection. It changed so much in their family and the dynamic that the husband decided, I want to do this as well. And so now the husband went through his own journey in the peaceful parenting and has seen major shifts. The family is just seeing, do they still have problems? Absolutely. But now they have tools that have given them more hope and better connection, and the children feel connected more. I've even heard the children say, God, I'm so grateful my mom did, worked with Brandon, because I saw a difference. So it's easy, practical tool. They're not easy, but it's like doing yoga. It's finding tools that are easy to do, but you just got to practice them so you can build that muscle. and continue to do it.
Well, Brandon, thank you so much. I look forward to
Yeah.
having you back and sharing more about what you do to serve
Yeah.
families. But in the meantime, you live in Portland. Do you do stuff online? Is it only in person? Like, how do you work your business? Because how do I get people to you?
Most of my clients are either elsewhere in the country or other parts of the world. So you can find me at Raising Conscious Parents on Facebook or Instagram and message me if you're interested. That's usually an easy, quick, easy way. But yeah, so it's Raising Conscious Parents. And yeah, you can find me there. DM me. I am running some really cool, awesome specials and groups for the start of the new year, because kind of resolutions kind of take place and people want to do a lot of transformational work. So we're doing some really fun stuff. So yeah.
That sounds really way cool.
Yeah,
Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today. The rest of you, thank you so much. I'm trying to remember, I will be on here next week and we'll have Brandon back after the new year. So look out for that. And please share this with families that you know. I know that I've been a yeller. I yelled at my kids yesterday. So like, that is something that I have been working on. And if you have a friend that you love that you think could benefit from improvement in their relationship with their children, I think that I've actually lost some friends because of the way that I interact with my children or did, and it made them feel very uncomfortable. And so recognizing that in myself, and now knowing that I wasn't even aware of it before. I mean, I knew I yelled, but nobody had the courage to say, Jen, I'm really not comfortable with that. They just stopped hanging out with me, stopped talking to me, and I didn't know why. And when I approached them, I didn't get any response. And so it's like, so again, I think there's something wrong with me, which there was, but I didn't know what it was. So I didn't know what I could improve upon. And I didn't realize how it was affecting my relationship with my kids, how it was affecting my relationship with my friends, but also how it was affecting their relationship with their kids, watching me with mine in this unhealthy kind of manner. And so all of that, if we are going to be, we are the human race, and if it takes a village to raise a kid, when you're a solo mama, you've got to have support. And I have really been thankful that I've got my parents. I'm a solo mama too. My ex-husband does a good job when the kids are with him, but when I've got them, it's all me by myself. And I really counted on my friends. I really counted on my folks to help me to bring that additional support. So knowing that there's people like you to help bring those tools to families, whether you're, married, whether you're not married, whether you're whatever, solo, whatever, you've got a place to go. And so thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think in these times, we really could use a lot of hope, and knowing that we can make our relationships better. When we all wanted to have kids, is why we have them. And then it's like, what the heck happened, right? So thank you so much for sharing with us tonight. I hope you have a fabulous rest of your evening. And I look forward to sharing more about what you do later.
Yes, thank you for having me, and have a beautiful holiday season, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, we'll see you. Good night.